Hello guys, it's Smurf back here again with a video that I've actually been wanting to do for a while now, which is how to get new people into the ATP cards. So if you're new to the Transformers TCG, have like a rough idea of how to play, but you don't know where to start with deck building, but like our cards, I'm here to kind of get you into what staples you should pick up to build decks with from the WoTC sets, as well as a couple deck lists using ATP cards and those WoTC cards that are pretty budgetish but still pretty competitive at the same time. As well as, on top of not just those things, I also want to encourage people to play either league games in our Discord just for fun, or even join our tournaments. Our tournaments are open to everybody. Just to earn prizes, you have to either be on the tournament tier on the Patreon or pay the entry fee. But they are open to everybody, new players, veteran players. It's a good way to get your feet wet, get that competitive itch like scratched, and still play a very fun card game. So I kind of went over my goals for this video already, but just to recap, I want you to know what staples you should acquire if you're new to the game and don't have a big physical collection. I also have their prices listed as well, so you know about what you're going to be spending. I want you to feel comfortable building decks with our cards, and I have some example lists using um, WoTC cards and ATP cards together. And then, like I said, I also want you to feel welcome to playing games in the Discord, whether that's tournaments, just for fun games, hang out, watch matches, pretty much just want to get new players involved with what we are doing, especially because we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary, and we have big plans coming up for our 2-year anniversary. And when I say big, I mean big. So, to get started, say you're brand new to the game, you don't have a big collection yet. Let's talk about what staples you should acquire. And I have them listed here by wave and price. With the exception of wave 5, I won't be talking about any characters for prices. A lot of the characters from the WoTC era have either been power crept by the ATP cards that you can just print out and play with. You don't actually need to buy a card as long as you have a printer or a way to print them out. Or they're very cheap commons and uncommons that have received stratagems. With a very few exceptions, that's going to be the case with most characters in the game. The competitive ones are either going to be able to be printed out or they're not going to be very expensive to acquire. Without further ado, we have the Wave 1 staples, the first set. Wave 1 is where you're going to find a lot of your battle cards, as well as like the only double-pipped cards in the game that aren't going to be star cards. Under $1, you have Leap into Battle, which is just a pump spell that it's in blue. It's still one of the best pumps in the game. I'm an advocate of it in both Control and in AGGRO. Grenade Launcher is the best weapon in the game. Like, arguably, it's +4 attack is not on any other weapon other than Paralyzo Box, which misses a good percentage of the time. Hunker Down is a staple in tank decks. Like, it's a must-play if you're playing a tribal tank deck. Start Your Engines is similar, but for cars, getting untaps on your cars is what they do, and it's what makes cars work, basically. Turbo Boosters is basically an upgraded version of Start Your Engines. Supercharge is a bold 3 pump for aggro, so if you're playing mostly orange, it's a way to push damage. Force Field is a way to keep your characters alive, barring upgrade removal. It makes it so you can take 4 damage maximum. Armed Hovercraft is Burn, that you can play on your range characters that hits the entire enemy side. Rapid Ascent is just discard if you have a range character as well. And then Improvised Shield and Handheld Blaster are your double orange and double blue pipped cards respectively. They're off color for what they do in play, but you're playing them for their pip colors when you flip them. That's pretty much why you play them. So all these cards, you can see the prices listed there. They're all under $1 each for those. And they're cards that I would definitely pick up playsets of. Now over $1, you have I Still Function at $1.40. It's one of the only reanimation spells legal in the game, if not the only one still legal for our tournaments. It lets you bring a character back for a turn, which can be a big momentum swing. The bigger they are is another pump that a lot of the smaller character decks play. It forces through damage against bigger characters, especially against blue decks, because it gives your guy Pierce 4, so they're always doing at least 4 damage. That one's at $4 roughly. Matrix is a staple if you're playing any deck with Autobot leaders. It's an orange-blue pip, so it's another double-pipped card that doesn't cost you a star, as well as antheming your team, giving them Pierce 1 and +1 attack. And then Energon Axe is the best blue weapon in the game. You can only put it on damaged characters, but it gives you +3 attack and Pierce 2. It's not a necessity to play blue decks, but it's very much, when you draw that card, it feels really good. Now moving on to Wave 2. Wave 2 doesn't have as many staples as Wave 1, but it has the introduction of the green pip in the game, where you can swap bad cards from your hand to pick up these cards when you need them, as well as some very good orange weapons and pumps. So under $1, you have Reckless Charge. It's basically Grenade Launcher in action form, except that your character takes 3 damage at the end of the turn, but you don't care about that because it's probably killing a character the turn you play Reckless Charge, so that 3 damage is negligible for the most part. Power Punch is supercharged as a weapon, like literally it's bold 3 on a weapon that goes away. Erratic Lightning is +3 attack, -1 defense, but in an orange deck you're just playing it to push damage. Bashing Shield and Enforcement Batons are 2 upgrades that have green pips on them and are removal when they come into play. Bashing Shield is probably the most important of these, since it's played even in blue decks because it can remove problematic armors. Enforcement Baton removes weapons. Confidence is a staple in most Autobot decks. It's card filtering as well as giving you an extra action play, so you draw 2, discard 2, and then you may play an action if you had all Autobots. So it's just a way to sift through your deck faster. Field Communication's a staple for specialist decks. It lets you play the top card of your deck if you put it on a specialist, as well as just giving +1 attack. Swindled is the confidence for Decepticons. It still sifts cards, but it plays an upgrade instead of an action. So those are your under $1 staples for Wave 2. Over $1, you have Scoundrels and Nobles Blaster respectively. They are the Decepticon and Autobot upgrades. They give +2 attack and Pierce 2 when going into the opposite faction. They're also blue-greens, so you can pick them up when you need them. Just having a green +2 weapon is very good in a lot of decks. Espionage is the go-to discard spell in the game. It's a green-white, so you can pick it up when you need it, and you just name a color that you're not wanting to deal with a card from, and your opponent reveals their hand, you pick a card of that color, they discard it. Marksmanship doesn't see as much play these days, but I did want to list it because of the Sharpshooter mission. It allows you to deal 2 damage to a character in bot mode as long as you have a ranged character. I like that card still. It's not as much of a staple as it used to be, but it's still a very good card. I combined Wave 3 and 4 together because they're considered some of the worst waves, but they do still have some good staples in them. Under $1, you have Wedge Formation, just a triple-pipped card that either draws you a card, repairs a guy, or lets you plan one, depending on the factions on your team. It can do all those if you have all the factions, or any combination of those. W5 Gyro Blaster is mostly a sideboard card, but it's a good way to push damage or prevent damage against decks with lots of bold and tough. It just is a +1 attack utility that says people can't flip more than 2 battle cards. Stable Cover turns off Pierce. It's good against the Pierce decks. It's a secret action. Hidden Fortification gives you tough 3, so it lets you prevent a lot of damage when you reveal it. And Sabotage Armaments destroys an enemy weapon on the attacker when you're defending, so it can get rid of grenade launchers, things like that, from the opponent. Point Position gives a tapped character Brave, so it's a good way to gain tempo and force the attacks into who you want them to attack. Soldier's Blaster is a mercenary card for the most part. It's a +3 weapon on a green pip that, as long as you're going into an opposite faction, or a different faction even, so a mercenary, as long as they're not attacking a mercenary, they get a +3 weapon. Over $1, you have Energy Pack, which is a good card for big character decks. It gives them additional +4 health on a utility. Opportune Offensive is a must-play in Mercenary decks. If you have Decepticons, it's a Leap into Battle that also gives +3. Just the card is ridiculous. Fight for Position is actually a common, but it's an orange-black that gives Bold 2. So it's not as much damage pushing as Supercharge, but the addition of the Black Pip means that it's a must-play in Pierce strategies. Sturdy Javelin is either a +2 attack for melee characters, or it's 2 damage to a character of your choice. Very good card for range decks specifically. The melee part is okay, but you mostly played in range decks to get that 2 damage. And then Pocket Processor is a utility on a green pip, so you can pick it up if you find it early, and it lets you draw a card at the start of your turn. It's a must-answer upgrade from your opponents, because once you get a processor rolling and you get the cards flowing, you get very far ahead. Now, for Wave 5, this is where I started including some characters. This was actually the last WoTC wave. So, under $1, you have Disassemble, which is a black-green removal spell that gets rid of armors and weapons at the cost of your opponent drawing a card. So having green removal is always good. Spy Satellite Uplink is a utility that gives +1 attack, and against the upgraded character, the opponent can't use Brave or Stealth. It's a good way to dodge people using Brave strategies, as well as destroy smaller characters that rely on Stealth to survive. Supporting Fire lets you attack an untapped character for the turn, which can be a huge blowout if you have a way to kill that character. Hollow Matter Projector doesn't see as much play anymore, since ATP has Absorption Core, which mostly replaced it, but it's still good in specific strategies, like we'll see. You could see it in JETFIRE decks. It makes it so the upgraded character can't take non-attack damage. Scouting Mission is a draw 2 as long as you deal 1 damage to a character. You can also use it to pick off opponents' characters at 1 health. Camion Crash is probably the best burn spell to rate card in the game. It's deal 1 to one of your guys, deal 2 to any enemy guy. Hold the Line is basically the action version of Force Field. Kreb is our first character we'll see here. He's the head for the Decepticons. He's 1 star and he gives +2 health to the Titan Master. Pretty much a staple head since it's printing. Doesn't see as much play anymore, but it's still a good head to have. Over $1, we have Fusion Borer at $1.60. It's a +3 weapon that gives Pierce 3. It's Opportune Offensive as a weapon. Counter Espionage is very good at removing opponents' secret actions that you're worried about, or just taking crucial cards out of their hand. Fangry is our only Titan Master body on here. A lot of the other bodies are good, or not very good, I should say. But Fangry stood the test of time. 6-star body, really good rate. Briscoe is another health head. He gives +3 health for 2 stars. So for 1 more star than Kreb, you get an additional health, as well as the bot mode of Briscoe is better than Kreb. And then Grax is the most broken head in the game. Gives +5 health for only 3 stars, and he himself is a 4 attack, 5 health character when he deploys, so he's like the rate of a 4-star character on his own for 3 stars. Ghost Shield is played in tank decks or other decks that can cheat upgrades into play. And then Master Metallicado is the most expensive card on the list for good reason. It's a pump spell that has 3 pips, and it can basically give you up to +5 attack if you flip all the colors, which isn't that hard to do if you build your deck to abuse it. But most of the time it's going to be +3, +4. So, those are the cards that I would acquire if you're thinking about playing in a tournament setting or even playing for fun, especially since the game has been out of print for a couple years now. Picking up these cards while they're still available and for these prices is a good idea. But using these cards, we're going to talk about an aggro deck using these cards with ATP. And that aggro deck is a aerial frontline rebel deck using Wheeljack and Drift with the It Works stratagem from ATP. Both Drift and the It Works stratagem and aerial are all ATP cards, and Wheeljack is a Wave 1 character who's an uncommon. So, We have your leap into battles that I talked about as just being a good pump. Start your engines. Both those cards are under $1 a copy. Supercharge, Confidence, Reckless Charge are also under $1 for a copy. Armored Assault and Show of Mastery are ATP cards, so most of your actions are going to be there to push damage or dig you deeper into your deck to find ways to push damage or get ways to untap your characters. For your upgrades, you have Grenade Launcher, Enforcement Batons, Erratic Lightning, and Noble's Blaster. You want to put upgrades into the scrap to get Wheeljack's ability rolling, because he gets Bold 3 as long as a weapon's in your scrap. And so, the only card over $1 there is Noble's Blaster. In fact, I'm pretty sure Noble's Blaster is the only card over $1 in the entire deck. Force Field, Improvised Shield, and Bashing Shields are your armors. Improvised Shield, you're just playing for the double orange, but Bashing Shield and Force Field are both very good cards to play. Turbo Boosters and Field Communicator are there to be +1, and Spy Satellite for that matter, are all +1 attack utilities. Turbo Boosters untapping a character, Field Com letting you potentially high roll turn 1 because of It Works, and Spy Satellite letting you dodge the crucial Stealth and Brave that people are playing, as well as just being another play off of It Works. I actually have played a deck similar to this in a tournament, and I've gotten, I believe I top 8'd that event. So, this deck is a real deck, like, very much so. You can compete and win tournaments with this, or top 8 at the very least. And it's also a very budget deck. This is something if you would like to just push damage, go crazy, like pseudo combo decks. This is a deck for you. The other deck I'm going to show has Ariel in it as well. She's a Legend Mode character. From ATP, Legend Mode is something of our design, where they start as a weaker character and then arise into the Legend side, which is a stronger character that keeps the damage of the previous character equal to the... And so it's a way to tell that character's story. So Ariel turning into Alita 1 and becoming this soldier, basically this super soldier for the Autobot forces. But Alita is one of the best legends in ATP. She's an 8-star. You can print her out and play with her on your own. She's, like I said, she's probably one of the best legends that we've made. Alita also can be featured in control decks, though, and this control deck uses JETFIRE Air Guardian, also a Wave 1 character, who's an uncommon, and the I Don't Believe in Destiny stratagem from ATP, which makes it so he gets +1 to all of his stats, and then his upgrades can't be scrapped from your Autobots, other than weapons. Your utilities and armors can't be scrapped by opponents' cards. Which means that you can move upgrades at the end of your turn to your other characters. So it lets you get a lot of value plays with Enter the Battlefield triggers and things like that. It's also like a Reanimator style deck because you can bring the upgrades back from the scrap. So you have Ariel again. She has Brave. She's a very straightforward, just good legend. JETFIRE is your centerpiece, who can return upgrades from the scrap to play. And then you can, like I said, with the strat, you can move them to your other characters to re-trigger them. And Iron Fist lets us filter through our deck, getting upgrades we want in the graveyard, as well as drawing us to the cards we need. So for actions, we have Leap into Battle, Confidence, Escape Route, Camion Crash, Scouting Mission are all under $1 a piece, and Espionage is literally only $1. And then you have Sabotage, Armaments, and Hold the Line. Those are your WoTC actions. And then for ATP actions, you have Will of the Protocols, and Despite Any Difficulty, Will of the Protocols allows you to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and separate them into 2 piles. Your opponent picks one of those piles to give to you, and the other pile goes into the scrap, which in this style of deck allows you, you to put certain cards into your graveyard to get back, as well as draw more cards. And Despite Any Difficulty is a secret action that has a blue and a black, and you flip it to, when you reveal it, you gain defense equal to the amount of colors you flipped, up to +4. So it's a very good defensive secret action in a deck like this where you have a lot of different colors in it. Moving on to the upgrades, you have Armed Hovercraft, Handheld Blaster, Noble's Blaster, and Thrumming Blade. Thrumming Blade is an ATP card. It gives +2 attack and Pierce 1, but it has the Energized mechanic from ATP 6, which counts the amount of cards in your opponent's KO area as Energized 3. This deck isn't using that, but if you were, the Energized 3 says that if you don't flip a black pip when you're attacking, the upgraded character gets an additional +2 Pierce. But otherwise, it's just a good weapon. I think it's a very good replacement for Energon Axe if you don't want to spend the money. If you have the money that you want to spend on Energon Axes or have the axes already, I would replace the Thrumming Blades with axes. You're playing Noble's Blaster just because it's a good blue-green. Armed Hovercraft, you can move with Jetfire's ability to re-trigger it to deal additional damage. Force Field, Rapid Ascent, Bashing Shield, Ghost Shield, and Guardian Shell are your armors. Force Field, not being able to be bashing shielded because of Jetfire is a big deal. Means that it's almost always going to stick to your guy, and you're only going to take 4 for that turn. Rapid Ascent's kind of mean in this deck. When it comes into play, if you put it on a ranged character, the opponent discards a card, but because of Jetfire's ability to move upgrades again, you re-trigger it, and so they have to discard 2 cards when you bring it back. Bashing Shield, just again, removal, great card, staple in almost every deck. Ghost Shield, normally you could only play it if you had an armor already on the character you were playing it on, but because of Jetfire's wording, it says put, which in this game is a big deal. Because it says put, you ignore that play restriction and can just put it from the scrap onto your guy without needing to have an armor already on him for a +3 armor that can't be removed by an opponent's card unless they have something like Catch Off Guard or a way to bounce it. Guardian Shell's an ATP armor. It's a staple in almost every blue deck or mid-range deck. It draws you a card upon coming into play, and then when it's removed, if it was scrapped, you repair one from the upgraded character. So with Jetfire, you can bring it back, draw a card, move it, draw another card. Point Position, Enhanced Power Cell, and Absorption Core are your utilities. Point Position allows you to give Brave to someone who you want your opponent attacking to protect your bigger characters. Enhanced Power Cell gives you +3 health. And then Absorption Core is an ATP card that protects your characters from non-attack damage twice. And then when it's scrapped, after either just from a card's effect, you overwriting it, or from taking 2 damage, it deals the damage to an enemy. But like I said, it protects you from 2 instances of non-attack damage. So it's a good card in almost every deck. It kind of replaced Hollow Matter since it doesn't get bashing shielded. Granted, in this deck you could play both because Hollow Matter can't be bashing shielded thanks to Jetfire. So this is a kind of a cool control deck that attacks your opponent's hand. It removes upgrades like with Sabotage Armament, Bashing Shield, and also just pushes tempo and direct damage. If you like playing control or like mid-rangey strategies, I would definitely look at this kind of a deck. So yeah, those are the cards that I would pick up and the decks that you can build with those cards on a budget. You can take those decks or come up with your own. We actually have a deck building challenge going on for Extra Life right now in the Discord where you can take either our Skylynx character, our Thunderwing character, or Knockout and build a deck around them by donating $5 to charity for the Extra Life event. And there's going to be a vote. Also, we usually run tournaments every month, as well as an additional Extra Life tournament most months. This month we're doing the deck building challenge instead of an Extra Life tournament. But I said it before, they're open to everyone. Just to get prizes, you have to be a member of the tournament tier on Patreon or pay the entry fee. So yeah, let me know if this video was helpful to you. I'll post a link to the Discord in the description. And until next time, have a good one.